he wrote Moonraker, it was a little piddling rocket that went up to destroy London.
Before Lewis Gilbert created the most extravagant Bond adventure ever filmed,
going up for real, and we would open our picture with a shuttle in it, so that would have been marvelous.
Moonraker was dismissed as too expensive and impossibly ambitious by studio executives.
It was a very difficult sequence to do.
Who couldn't understand how 007 could work in outer space without becoming science fiction parody.
Gravity, normal conditions. Life support system, nominal.
The cast has finally revealed shocking secrets that will transform your understanding of this misunderstood spectacle that pushed Bond beyond all reasonable limits.
The fact of the matter is that you have a camera on top of somebody's head. Everything's fine, funnily enough, when you're in free fall.
The Star Wars cash grab that changed Bond forever. What most fans don't realize is that Moonraker wasn't the planned next Bond film. It was a desperate attempt to capitalize on Star Wars mania by rushing Bond into space regardless of story logic.
U.S. spacecraft, 3 minutes to intercept.
Stand by to laser it.
The decision to abandon the scheduled For Your Eyes Only and film Moonraker instead was purely financial calculation that prioritized trend chasing over franchise integrity. Roger Moore revealed years later that he was horrified by the decision to send Bond into space. I thought it was ridiculous and would destroy the character's credibility. Bond is a spy, not an astronaut. The entire premise seemed like shameless Star Wars exploitation that would make us look desperate and silly rather than sophisticated and cool. The actor's concerns reflected widespread worry about cheapening the franchise. Producer Albert Broccoli disclosed that the studio demanded the space setting despite creative team's resistance. United Artists saw Star Wars making billions and told us to put Bond in space immediately. We had a different film ready, but they wouldn't listen to creative arguments when they saw dollar signs from science fiction. The financial pressure overrode all storytelling considerations. Lewis Gilbert noted how the project's space setting created impossible production challenges. We were making a spy thriller with NASA-level special effects on a tight schedule. The technical demands were extraordinary, and we had no experience with this type of filmmaking. The ambitious scope challenged the franchise's traditional production methods. The Venice destruction that infuriated Italy. The gondola chase wasn't just impressive stunt work, it was destructive filming that damaged actual historic locations and created international diplomatic incident. What the production team revealed about filming in Venice shows how the pursuit of spectacular action led to cultural vandalism that nearly got them expelled from Italy. The decision to crash motorized gondola through St. Mark's Square required special permissions that the Italian government later regretted granting. We told them it would be controlled stunt, but the actual filming caused significant damage to historic buildings and pavements, disclosed the stunt coordinator. The Italian authorities were furious when they saw how much destruction we had caused for a comedy sequence. Roger Moore revealed that the infamous hovercraft gondola moment was added against his objections. I told them it was too silly and would destroy whatever credibility the sequence had established. They insisted it would get laughs, which it did, but at the cost of making Bond look like complete idiot. The tone-deaf comedy undermined the film's attempts at genuine thrills. The Venice location filming created genuine diplomatic tensions that affected future Bond productions in Italy. The damage and disruption made Italian officials very reluctant to allow Bond filming in historic locations again, noted the production team. We essentially traded one spectacular sequence for years of difficult negotiations with Italian film authorities. Lois Chills's performance that she can't remember. Dr. Holly Goodhead wasn't just another Bond girl. She was role that actress Lois Chills barely remembers filming due to personal crisis during production.
I can only hope your presence here is a coincidence, Mr. Bond. I dislike being spied on.
What Chillies revealed about her psychological state shows how grief and depression affected her performance in ways that made the character seem cold and distant. Chillies disclosed that she was mourning her father's death throughout filming. I was in deep grief and depression during the entire production. I could barely function emotionally, which made Holly seem detached and unemotional rather than strong and professional. The personal tragedy affected every aspect of her performance and screen presence. The actress's admission that she has almost no memory of filming due to her psychological state. The whole experience is a blur because I was so numb with grief. I can watch the film and barely recognize myself or remember shooting those scenes. The dissociative effect of trauma erased her conscious memory of the production. Roger Moore revealed that he tried to support Chili's through her grief, but the production schedule allowed little accommodation. Lois was clearly suffering, but we had to keep filming regardless of anyone's personal situation. The machine doesn't stop for human feelings, which made the experience even more difficult for her. Jaws' transformation that saved the character. Richard Keel's Jaws wasn't supposed to become romantic comedy character. His redemption arc was desperate attempt to capitalize on unexpected audience affection. What Keel revealed about the character's transformation shows how studio interference turned deadly assassin into lovable comic relief that betrayed the original conception. The decision to bring Jaws back after The Spy Who Loved Me was purely commercial rather than creative. Audiences loved the character so much that the studio demanded we bring him back, disclosed the producers. But we'd already established him as indestructible villain, so we had to find new angle to justify his return. Keel's personal gentle nature influenced how the character was rewritten from pure menace to sympathetic giant. Richard was such a kind person that everyone wanted to make Jaws more likable, revealed the cast. The romance with Dolly was designed to show his human side, but it completely undermined his effectiveness as threatening presence. The infamous meeting with Dolly became one of cinema's most divisive moments, with fans split between charmed and disgusted. Some people found it sweet and humanizing. Others thought it destroyed what made Jaws special, noted Keel. I understood both perspectives, but was happy to play something other than pure villain. The special effects that nearly bankrupted production. The space station sequences weren't just ambitious visuals. They were budget-destroying effects work that pushed 1970s technology beyond its capabilities. What Derek Meddings revealed about creating these sequences shows how practical effects ambition created financial crisis that threatened the entire production. The decision to build practical space station sets and models rather than relying on cheaper alternatives demonstrated commitment to visual spectacle over fiscal responsibility. We built enormous sets and miniatures that cost millions, disclosed Meddings. The space battle sequence alone consumed more budget than some entire Bond films had previously cost. The production's determination to compete with Star Wars visual effects meant attempting techniques they hadn't mastered. We were learning as we went, which meant expensive mistakes and constant reshoots, revealed the effects team. Every sequence took longer and cost more than budgeted because we were pushing into unfamiliar technical territory. Roger Moore noted how the effects focus meant sacrificing other production elements. So much money went to space sequences that other aspects suffered. The script needed more work, but there was no budget left for rewrites or extended filming of dialogue scenes. The eugenics plot that everyone missed. Hugo Drax's scheme wasn't just world domination. It was explicit Nazi-style eugenics program that the film presented with disturbing casualness. What the cast revealed about the villain's ideology shows how the film's camp tone obscured genuinely horrifying themes about racial purity and genocide. Michael Lonsdale's portrayal of Drax as refined aesthete masked the character's monstrous philosophy about creating master race. Drax's plan was explicitly genocidal. He wanted to exterminate everyone on Earth except his chosen perfect specimens, disclosed Lonsdale. The film presented this as typical Bond villain scheme, but it was actually depicting Holocaust-level atrocity with glibness that was disturbing. The selection of physically perfect men and women for Drax's space arc represented eugenic ideology identical to Nazi philosophy. The perfect humans were all young, beautiful, and presumably of approved genetic stock, noted the cast. The film never seriously addressed how horrifying this selection process was or what it implied about disability, age, and human worth. The casual mass murder of Earth's population was treated as background threat rather than moral atrocity deserving genuine horror. Bond stops Drax, but the film never grapples with the fact that we're watching someone attempt planetary genocide, revealed the production team. The camp tone prevented audiences from confronting how evil the plan actually was. The title song that nearly became a classic, Shirley Bassey's Moonraker, wasn't the only option. Multiple title songs were commissioned and rejected. What the musical team revealed about the selection process shows how close the film came to having completely different musical identity that might have elevated the entire production. John Barry composed several different musical approaches before settling on the romantic ballad that became the final theme. We experimented with more action-oriented themes and disco-influenced tracks to match contemporary trends, disclosed Barry. The romantic ballad was actually the safest and least interesting option, but it was the one everyone could agree on. Kate Bush was considered for a more experimental title song that would have given the film contemporary edge. We approached Kate about doing something avant-garde and unexpected, revealed the producers. She had ideas that were brilliant but too weird for a Bond film, so we went with Shirley's more traditional approach. The final Bassey performance was technically perfect but lacked the iconic power of Goldfinger or Diamonds Are Forever. Shirley gave it everything, but the song itself was forgettable, noted the musical team. It's probably the weakest Bassey Bond theme despite her phenomenal vocal performance. The critical massacre that hid box office triumph. The reviews weren't just negative. They were vicious attacks that called Moonraker the death of the franchise. What the cast revealed about the critical response shows how commercial success can coexist with artistic condemnation and how the film's reputation has evolved over decades. Critics' accusations that Moonraker represented everything wrong with 1970s excess and creative bankruptcy reflected genuine concern about franchise direction. Reviewers thought we'd killed Bond by turning him into cartoon character in space, disclosed Roger Moore. They weren't entirely wrong. The film prioritized spectacle over character and camp over sophistication in ways that damaged the franchise's credibility. The film's massive box office success, despite critical savaging, proved that audiences wanted spectacle over substance. We made the highest-grossing Bond film to that point, which vindicated the studio's commercial instincts while confirming critics' fears about pandering to lowest common denominator, noted the producers. The financial triumph made it impossible to argue the approach was wrong, even though creatively it nearly destroyed what made Bond special. The franchise's immediate course correction with For Your Eyes Only demonstrated recognition that Moonraker had gone too far. The next film deliberately scaled back to grounded spy thriller because everyone recognized we'd lost the plot, revealed the production team. Moonraker was commercial peak but creative nadir that forced serious reevaluation of what Bond should be. The film's rehabilitation as campy fun rather than serious spy thriller has made it more appreciated over time. Modern audiences who grew up with over-the-top action films find Moonraker entertaining in ways that contemporary viewers didn't, noted Roger Moore years later. What seemed like franchise suicide in 1979 now looks like ambitious swing for the fences that at least tried something different, even if it didn't entirely work. Watch Moonraker again with appreciation for its audacious ambition, its spectacular production design, and its willingness to risk everything for unprecedented spectacle. Notice how the space sequences remain impressive despite dated effects, how the cast maintains professionalism despite absurd situations, and how the film represents both the peak and the limit of Bond excess. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into cinema's most controversial blockbusters. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads, and let us know in the comments whether Moonraker represents Bond at his most entertaining or most ridiculous. The sky is no longer the limit when you're going for broke.